Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Game Things. I'm your host of the week, Ming, and this week we start our episode off by talking about the recently revealed trailer of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, the remake of the original Crisis Core game from 2007. So for those of you that have never played this epic game back in the day during the PSP era, you were definitely missing out. But in any case, now that the remake is here, I highly suggest checking it out. But you guys might be wondering, why should I check out this game? So let me give you guys some context and do a brief introduction about the game. Crisis Core effectively features the protagonist Zack and his story before the events of Final Fantasy VII. So basically, Crisis Core is a prequel of how our main character in Final Fantasy VII, Cloud, came to be. Although it's a prequel, some popular characters like Sephiroth, Aerith, Tifa, and Cloud, of course, will be making their appearance in the game as well. The combat and the plot is really great that a lot of people have effectively called this game a masterpiece of the PSP era, making this remake a definite must try. So I would say that if you are interested in the game, it will be available on the 13th of December on PS5, PS4, Nintendo Switch, Xbox Series S and X, Xbox One, and Steam. Speaking of remakes, we got news that the upcoming remake of The Witcher will be a more story-driven single-player game with open-world RPG elements. It is nice to see that the devs are adopting the open-world feature for Witcher, as the Witcher universe is a very interesting one with all sorts of cool things for players to explore and unravel as they progress through the game. Unfortunately, the game is still in development and pretty far away from release, but nonetheless, it is nice to know that it is heading towards a good development direction with the open world announcement. Aside from The Witcher, according to a recent talk given by the president of Team Ninja, it looks like some titles, for example Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, might be having a reboot in the future. These two franchises are franchises that people enjoy a lot. Ninja Gaiden for the difficulty and Dead or Alive for its gameplay and character design. So if you are a fan of either of these titles, you guys should be excited and be on the lookout for potential news of either of these titles in the future. Speaking of games that are coming in the future, there is a pretty good potential that Valorant might be getting a console version soon based on job listings from Riot. Now, we can't confirm that the jobs listings are specifically for Valorant or Riot's League of Legends based fighting game, but considering the fact that a lot of other hero shooter games like Apex Legends, Overwatch 2, Rainbow Six Siege, etc. have console versions, it would come as a surprise if Riot doesn't go down the console path as well for Valorant. But of course, since it's not confirmed, I highly suggest you guys to not expect too much for the time being until we at Game Things bring you the most updated news, so be sure to stay subscribed and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on our future episodes. Speaking of Rainbow Six Siege, the game is getting some updates as well. The first update coming is Crossplay. After a long wait, Crossplay and linear progression is finally available on Rainbow Six Siege, and you can finally enjoy the game with your friends across all platforms, and your progression can be carried across all platforms as well. I know for a fact that players have been asking for crossplay and cross progression for a very long time, so this is definitely great news for all you fans of Rainbow Six Siege. To further increase the hype of this upcoming update, a new Defender operator will be introduced as well, which is something that I'm sure all of you guys that love Rainbow Six Siege are excited for, because who knows what sort of weird skills and gadgets this new character comes equipped with and how that character will shake up the meta. So all in all, if you enjoy Rainbow Six Siege a ton or just want to revisit the game after taking a long break, then I would say that now would be the perfect time to get back into the game and have some fun getting kills or being killed from some small hole in the wall. Aside from Rainbow Six Siege getting updates, Sifu, the popular martial arts based action game, will be getting an update as well. With this new update comes a replay editor that effectively lets you watch your replays and edit them to make it look way cooler than usual. You can even use the newly added slow motion effect to increase the exaggeration of your hits and make them look 10 times cooler than the usual. But other than making a cool replay montage, that's basically all the update has to offer, which is kind of unfortunate because normally for players, you guys would want more gameplay mechanics, more gameplay story, stuff like that, but oh well. Having a replay editor is fine as well, and we can only hope that all future updates might bring something more interesting to the table. Unfortunately, that's all the good updates that we have for this week, as our next piece of news is on Amazon Luna and their announcement where they will lose at least 45 games for the month of December. And among these 45 games, there are some pretty large and popular titles like Yakuza Like a Dragon, Resident Evil 7, Judgment, and Katana Zero. So yeah, these are just some of the bigger titles of the list. So if you have never tried out any of these games, maybe go check it out as soon as possible if they are still available on Amazon Luna before they're gone for good. That basically wraps up all the news that we have for this week. Now let's talk about some new games that you can try out starting from today. The first game that we're introducing today is not a new game per se, but it's an official release of that game, and the game in question is Gundam Evolution. Gundam Evolution, if you have never heard before, is effectively a Overwatch-like shooter title featuring the popular mecha series Gundam from Japan. With the official release, there will be a new Gundam for players to pilot called the New Gundam, and based on the videos I've seen on the New Gundam, it looks pretty freaking strong, as the Gundam can effectively launch a follow-up attack on enemies that you manage to successfully shoot at. And the best part is, this follow-up attack doesn't even look like you need to aim at all, basically allowing you to hit that character that you shot previously from anywhere on the map, which is kinda busted. Aside from the New Gundam, there'll also be a new map for players to explore, so it is definitely a good time to hop onto the game right now and try it out if you're bored of Overwatch 2. Plus, it is a free game, so no harm trying, I guess. Moving on from Gundam Evolution, we have Marvel's Midnight Sun. So the long-awaited Marvel's Midnight Sun, brought to you by the developers from XCOM, has finally been released. So if you guys have never heard of XCOM, it's effectively a turn-based strategy game. And similarly, Marvel's Midnight Sun is a turn-based strategy game, but with a bit of a twist. The twist is that each Marvel character will have their abilities and skills in the form of cards, and you need to play those cards for the characters to use their said skills. So it's basically Slay the Spire, but with mechanics like environmental hazards and movement ranges, which definitely makes a rather interesting game. So all in all, if you are a fan of Marvel characters and like strategy games and have the intention to look for something different, then maybe give this title a shot, as this title is rather unique, I would say. Marvel's Midnight Sun is available on Xbox Series S and X, PS5 and PC, so be sure to get them on this platform if you are interested. If strategy isn't your type of game, then how about the newly released Need for Speed Unbound? So Need for Speed Unbound is basically a racing game, and like most other racing games out there in this day and age, Need for Speed Unbound features beautiful graphics as you race across the map against others on the road. The key difference that makes Need for Speed a great title back then is the cops mechanic. So there will be some parts where in the middle of a race, cops can just randomly come at you and hunt you down. So you would then have to somehow outmaneuver the cops and beat your opponents in a race, which is pretty intense and definitely gets the adrenaline pumping. So yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting game all in all. And of course, like most other racing games out there, car customization is extremely important, so don't expect anything less from Need for Speed either, as there are tons of customizations for you to choose from. The game is available on PS5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC for you to try out right now. The last and final title that we are featuring for this week is the Callisto Protocol, available now on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. So if you have never seen our previous episodes where we covered Callisto's Protocol, Callisto Protocol is effectively a horror game brought to you by the creator of Dead Space. And Callisto Protocol is effectively a more dreaded situation as compared to Dead Space. So if you have heard of Dead Space effectively is your character Isaac being stuck on a mining ship. But for Callisto Protocol, it is way worse, because compared to being stuck on a mining ship with some sort of monsters, being stuck in a little prison with monsters is 10 times worse than what you can imagine. So yeah, if you are interested in horror, definitely give it a shot, as Callisto Protocol is looking like a pretty unique experience and a very good time if you are willing to fork out the money and try it out. That's basically all the games that we have for this week. Now let's move on to our last and final segment, free things. For this week, Epic Games Store is giving out 2 titles called Fort Triumph as well as RPG in a Box, so be sure to grab these titles before they are no longer available. And that basically wraps up our episode for the week. Once again, I was your host for the week, Ming, and I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode, and we will see you guys on next week's episode of Game Things.